The CPI. Yep, everybody, we're talking about inflation today and the CPI. Today, we have a post here from Wall Street Silver about inflation. And I want to jump into it because I think this is something that people might be concerned about. And I hope that I can alleviate some concerns here. So let's jump into it. India just hit over 7% government measured inflation for the year. Nigeria just hit 18%. There are slightly higher numbers coming out of Europe. This means that the dollar is likely to rise. It will be interesting to see if silver is locked into its current zone. It kind of broke away from the dollar a little bit yesterday morning. Anyways, just like people don't understand when the dollar goes up, silver and gold go down, but the dollar is only going up against other currencies. They all are going down relative or daily relative to silver and gold. I wouldn't be surprised to see a few mediocre days for silver, but I also wouldn't be surprised for it to jump 10 to 15%. One could say we just need to keep on stacking, etc., etc. I would say we just need to spread the word through social media. I think I've been pretty clear on that. See what you can do, maybe take a bit of action. So Bulletproof 7, I hope that this video, that will be posted here on social media, if you consider YouTube social media, will help in that regard of spreading the message. But let's talk a little bit about the CPI because I think when we think about, fiat currencies and how they kind of weigh against each other, um, we may think, well, hey, the dollar might have some strength building up if the currencies in other countries will be going down because of inflation. Well, the thing is that in the way that our CPI numbers are kind of wonky, so too are India and Nigeria's. So let's take India under the microscope a little bit today for this video. Check out this article here about India's CPI and WPI inflation. We'll focus a little bit more on the CPI in this video. So here is some information regarding India's government inflation measurement. Inflation can be described as the general rise in the price of goods and services in an economy over time. It's calculated by tracking the increase in prices of essentials. The primary index that tracks the change in retail prices of essential goods and services consumed by Indian households is the Consumer Price Index, or CPI. The index assigns different weights to various goods and services in the basket and tracks the movement of their prices. Sounds pretty familiar, doesn't it? Well, let's continue. It also tracks the price movements of the entire basket on a pan-India level to calculate the overall inflation figure, or CPI inflation. But according to Sujan Hadra, chief economist and executive director at Adnan Rathi Shares and Stockbrokers, CPI is not the cost of living index and is therefore not an accurate reflection of consumer spending. And here we go. This is from Sujan. The weightage of food in the CPI is close to 50%, but most households don't spend nearly that much of their overall expenditure on food. What we spend more on are services such as education, healthcare, and transportation, where inflation levels are much higher. Now, that is key, guys, because if you think about what people spend the most on, that is where you will find the velocity of currency likely higher relative to other measurements. So if people are spending more money um, in education, healthcare, and transportation than they are in uh, other categories within the basket, well, then you have to start thinking, well, hey, shouldn't we be focusing a little bit more and weighting those things a little bit more compared with food? Now, here's actually a bit of a better breakdown. Here's the India CPI on trading economics. And here you find that food and beverages is roughly around 45.86% of the total weight. Transport and communication is 8.59%. Health is 5.89%. Now you know that people are probably spending a lot more money on health. And education, 4.46%, which is insane if you think about it. All those three things added up don't even equate to the 45.86% CPI for food, for India's CPI, which is insane. So again, it's not an accurate measurement of cost of living, as Sujan says. And to their credit, let's take a look at what the BLS has to say as far as American CPI. They actually say something similar. Check this out. Is the CPI a cost of living index? And this is what the BLS has to say. Again, this is for Americans. The CPI frequently is called a cost of living index, but it differs in important ways from a cost of living measure. We use a cost of living framework in making practical decisions about questions that arise in constructing the CPI. A cost of living index is a conceptual measurement goal, however, not a straightforward alternative to the CPI. A cost of living index would measure changes over time in the amount that consumers need to spend to reach a certain utility level or standard of living. So, for in the ways that we tend to think about what we spend money on within the economy, um, I've seen people talk, use this or mention essentially what should be a cost of living index in the comment section of my videos. They'll say, hey, I've gone down to the supermarket and I've gotten this, or I've, paid X amount for health insurance and so on and so forth. And, that those are things that impact our cost of living. But certain things within the basket of goods and services that are measured within the CPI may not include those things that we generally tend to pay the most for within our American society, and it looks like even our global society when you factor in that India also has a similar breakdown. But the fact of the matter is that in general, whether it's the CPI or whether you're looking at the cost of living index, things are rising. And as you can see here today, silver and gold are rising. We finally have broken out of that trading range that we were in for the last few days. And we have a big green candlestick here for silver. And honestly, I was a little bit worried seeing the moving average kind of edged a little bit lower and the candlesticks not really jumping above it too much. But yesterday we ended the day above the 20-day moving average. And now we're in a healthy area here for silver and even for gold as well. We also have a big green candlestick, as you can see here. So things are looking good for precious metals, and I think we're going to have some pretty good days ahead. So yes, with CPI looking pretty, high in India and in Nigeria and in other places, you could say, hey, the dollar may have some strength in the coming days. But overall, guys, I wouldn't worry too much about it. All we know is, or what we should be focusing on is the fact of the matter is we're going to be seeing more and more people re-enter the job market. And these are more and more people who will be spending more than we had been seeing consumer spending last year. Remember, we had the She session, which knocked out so many jobs for millions of women who are working in hospitality and leisure, and even just other people who are working in hospitality and leisure. But in March, we start to see a huge win for the hospitality and leisure sector with so many jobs coming back. So just imagine what that's going to look like this summer and by the end of this year when all of those employees will be out shopping. So guys, thanks again for watching. Please hit that like button. Please subscribe if you're new. It's Black Bullion for goldandsilvertoday.com.